Hi, happy Poetry Month. Today I will be sharing 3 poems with you. The first poem will be from my poetry collection as well as my poetry calendar, Stay at Home Calls for Poetry, and it will be April's poem. And then the other 2 poems are poems that I came across and I wanted to share with you as well, especially because it's National Poetry Month. So let's get into the video. So this is my poetry calendar. Stay at Home Calls for Poetry. This was March's poem. And now let's read April's. I will show you first. All right, let's take a deep breath together. All right, let's read the poem. April. How can anger be worn and not seen? You can't hear the hurt because anger numbs it. My anger is my honesty, waiting to be released. I'm allowed to feel angry. I'm allowed to feel sad. I'm allowed to feel. I'm going to read it one more time. How can anger be worn and not seen? You can't hear the hurt because anger numbs it. My anger is my honesty, waiting to be released. I'm allowed to feel angry. I'm allowed to feel sad. I'm allowed to feel. So what comes up for me about that poem is you can't hear the hurt because anger numbs it. It's acknowledging that this person, in this case it is me because I wrote this poem, and it is a personal poem. But in this case, I am saying hurt is still there. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling hurt. But I can't think about it, or I don't want to think about it because anger is all I'm truly feeling, or that's at the surface. And so I find that very interesting, of the acknowledgement of hurt. And then I'm allowed to feel angry. I'm allowed to feel sad. I'm allowed to feel. I feel like this is also acknowledging I'm allowed to feel multiple emotions at the same time. Because I feel like that is slowly being talked about, how we can feel happy and sad, how we can feel angry and confused, how we could be hurt but also feel some relief. And so it's just these mix of emotions mixed into one, and one may be shown more than the other, but that doesn't mean that there's not multiple emotions being felt. And I find that interesting. This is a poem of mine that is titled Not Allowed to Be Angry. In my poetry calendar, you only get a snippet, but it is a longer poem. And so sharing it for April, I find interesting because it starts off, I guess you could say, very aggressive, or maybe it's just how I read it. But it starts off with that anger. And so maybe that's like, whoa, angry? I want the peace. It's April. It's spring finally. But then it gets, as we get to the ending, it's about that allowance. I am allowed to feel many feelings. And it's kind of like that remembrance. Even though, yes, yay, it's April, or yes, yay, it's warmer weather, depending on where you're located, of course. But there still could be a lot of emotions you're feeling because of what's happening in our world today, or because of what's happening personally with you. So it's a reminder, I feel, I'm taking this as a reminder that even with this change in weather, change in season, change in, I know maybe some people follow like the moon and what that's saying about like how emotions may come up for you. Even with all this change, don't forget it's okay if you feel angry right now and you don't feel that peace or that excitement like those around you. Or it's okay if you feel a lot of things and you don't know which will come out. It's kind of just taking that time to at least process it, to acknowledge and think about why are you feeling all these things, and to see how you can help regulate it or just help yourself. The last 3 lines, I'm allowed to feel angry, I'm allowed to feel sad, I'm allowed to feel, those you will not see in my poetry book, but you see it in my poetry calendar because I added it. Because I'm taking snippets, I wanted the hopeful aspect or the calm to be shown in the snippet poem. And so because you're not seeing the full poem that's in my poetry collection, I wanted to show you that hope right then and there. And so that's why I added those 3 lines for the end in my poetry calendar. And not all my poems I added new stuff, but some of them I did again. So like I said, so you can see that hope or just get some things thinking in your mind. And so, yeah, definitely let me know what you take away from this poem. I do find it kind of interesting, though, that this is for April, because, again, it feels like, because the first line is, how can anger be worn and not seen? But it doesn't have to be aggressive because it is a question. So it could just be food for thought, as the saying goes, for the month. And so, yeah, just let it ponder, settle, and sit in your mind. And let me know what you think in the comments. All right, I'm going to read you poem 2, which is Lost by David Wagner or David Wagoner. I'm not sure how he pronounces his last name. But this is a poem that when I joined an Amy McNee's free masterclass, she had mentioned this poem. And I hadn't read it at the time. And so I'm reading it now, and I'm sharing it with you for us to think about and ponder. And because it's National Poetry Month, I think it's good to be sharing 3 poems instead of just my own. So, all right, I'm going to read it to you twice, and then I'm going to lead a discussion about it. Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes, listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying here. No 2 trees are the same to Raven. No 2 branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows. Where you are, you must let it find you. And so I'm going to read it one more time. Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes behind. One more time. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. And you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying here. No trees are the same to Raven. No 2 branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. I really like this poem. I think it's beautiful and a great reminder to stand still. Weirdly enough, I would say it kind of ties to my poem because of that idea of take in what you're feeling or what's around you. So my poem was about take in those emotions, and even if it's multiple emotions. And now this poem, Lost, is about standing still and listening to the world around you, or in this case, listening to nature that is around you. And so I really liked wherever you are is called here. So 2 things come up. One, my dad has a saying that he always said to me, no matter where you go, there you are. And so that immediately popped in my head that wherever you are it's called here. That means you're here right now in that moment, wherever you are, in your home, in a store, outside, in a car. You are there. So you are here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. Ask permission to know it and be known. So be present in that moment of what's around you and learn it, absorb it, and take it in as you're understanding it as much as it wants to understand you, because you are entering that space and you both need to understand each other. And that's very interesting, because you could think of like inanimate objects, or just objects in general, is like you could say like they're just an item, they're just an object. Like, I'm the one that has a brain, and yes, that may be true, but it's still like you are utilizing. So like, for example, a computer, it's an object, but we are utilizing it. And so what does that mean? But in this case, it's nature, and it's about trees, and it's about branches, it's about the forest. The forest breathes, listen. And so that's so interesting, and I like it to just take in that moment. And the second thing that came up for me is that I'm about to go to a park later today, and so I want to make sure that I am taking the time to not just take pictures, or see this and that, but also just take in like, what is this park showing me that maybe I wouldn't be in tune with, because I'm just trying to be like a passerby, take pictures and then go. But no, it's more like, how can I be still? How can I stand still more to take everything in from this park? If you leave it, you may come back again, saying here. So it's okay if you have to go, because we can't stay in one place forever, but we can come back, and that stranger is still here. So, or that the forest in this poem is saying here you are, here I am, we're here. I liked how David brought up, no two trees are the same to raven, no two branches are the same to wren. It's still including like that nature, because birds are outside. And so what two different ravens may see about this tree, maybe two different things. They don't see the same thing. Neither does the wren. They observe the branch differently than how another wren might observe or take in or utilize this branch. And that can be true about us as humans, about the things we use, about the things we utilize, or just even about the things we see. Even if, for example, me interpreting this poem, you may take it a different way. Me interpreting my own poem, you may take it a different way. And that's not a bad thing. It's about just being present and seeing how different people or different living things observe and take in the same thing we all see, but we take it in differently. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. So if you're not listening or paying attention or just noticing some things, then apparently we're losing something. We're missing a bigger picture, and so we're lost. And that's very interesting. And then I like the last part, you must let it find you. So as much as in the forest or in the park, we could be listening to the branches and the trees, something happens where the trees realize you are there too. And I may just be getting super deep, but I'm thinking about like how when the wind blows, it blows a certain way where you hear the trees, you hear the branches. But imagine if you hear the leaves. Imagine if you're standing in a spot and the wind blows, but some things are heard differently because of your shoes stepping on those leaves on the ground. So they're not blowing because you're stepping on them. Or maybe you have something on your jacket that makes a little sound when the wind blows, or maybe something in your hair, and so, or even just the smell. So, and that is like something nature can pick up because you have entered that space. You are here. And that's me just getting deep and like taking it that way. But I find that so interesting and fascinating. And again, it's that reminder to stand still. He says stand still only 2 times that I can see doing a quick glance. Only 2 times in the poem, in the first line and in the second to last line. But I still think it's powerful and well used. And then how many times does he say lost? 1, 2, 3. Whoa, only 3 times. In the second line, in the third to last line, and in the second to last line. And again, I thought lost was used more, but it's not. And I feel like he uses it well. And so that's very interesting. Because, and again, he technically, I guess, didn't have to use the word lost at all. It could have just been the title of the poem. But he utilized it to explain what he means about the lost. And I find that interesting. So yes, that was that poem. Again, leave your comments below if you took anything different away, or if you've read this poem prior, because this is my first time reading it today, as well as reading it out loud with you. So let me know if you've read this poem in a class or with family members, or or read the book, because I think this is a part of a book. And how did you take that poem? All right, and now I'm gonna share the last poem for this video. This poem is Continental Breakfast by Nkosi Nkululeko. And I apologize, I don't know again if I'm saying his last name right. And also he has like an NK for both his first name and last name. Actually, I'm not sure if Nkosi is a male or female. 1 second. Let me see. Yeah. So I'm not sure the gender of Nkosi, so I'm going to say they or them. But Nkosi Nkululeko, they have an NK for their first name and their last name, and I'm not sure if the NK, if the N in the attached to the NK is silent or not. So it could just be Cozy Kululeko, or it could be Nkosi Nkululeko. So I apologize if I am saying the name wrong, but I would like to share this poem because I don't know if I want to share my opinion now or after. I think I want to share it now. This poem, after I first read it, because I maybe read it a few years ago, and I was like, whoa, you could write a poem like this? Like, that's a cool style. That's interesting. I like how blatant some things are, and then how there's like subcontext or subtle things in this poem. And so that's all I'll say, and I'm going to read it twice and then have a discussion about it. So again, this is titled Continental Breakfast. I know we the finest black folk in the southern La Quinta Inn, the D. Oh, I don't curse, so the word is D-A-M-N, but I don't curse, so I'm just going to say but D. So yeah, just so you know. Or I guess I could say, if I want to say dang. No, I'm just going to say D. Okay. I know we the finest black folk in the southern La Quinta Inn, but D, the white folk won't stop looking at us funny. The 2% milk carton faces, the backside of a fridge's glass door, classic Lucky Charms and styrofoam bowls which squeak when you bend them. It's unremarkable here, but we're at least bored together, in line for food, news on a monitor, propagandizing in one ear, coming out abandoned in only other. When there's nothing to do, our blacknesses practices metamorphosis. This do-rag used as a coffee sleeve, bonnet as lampshade, we'd retire in the pagoda with cigarette butts decorating cobblestone like flower stems. I want to outgrow the flammable baggage that we left in the room of our memory. Sometimes when you forget what I say, I feel better for it. as if I get to share something with you again. But what was that thing you said in our argument about something I forgot? We are in the lobby, silent, waiting for the other to disturb our discontent with a pun about crackers. Sorry for stumbling. I'm going to read it again. I think I do better reading in my head than reading out loud, so I'm going to read it again. I know we the finest black folk in the southern La Quinta Inn, but D, the white folk won't stop looking at us funny. The 2% milk carton faces, the backside of a fridge's glass door, classic Lucky Charms in styrofoam bowls, which squeak when you bend them. It's unremarkable here, but we're at least bored together. In line for food. News on a monitor, propagandizing in one ear, coming out abandoned in the only other. When there's nothing to do, our blacknesses practices metamorphosis. This do-rag used as coffee sleeve, bonnet as lampshade. We'd retire in the pagoda with cigarette butts decorating cobblestone like flower stems. I want to outgrow the flammable baggage that we left in the room of our memory. Sometimes when you forget what I say, I feel better for it, as if I get to share something with you again. But what was that thing you said? An argument about something I forgot? We are in the lobby, silent, waiting for the other to disturb our discontent with a pun about crackers. So from that first line, I know we the finest black folk in the southern La Quinta Inn, but D, the white folk won't stop looking at us funny. Powerful line. It goes into the second line, so powerful first two lines. But just the fact of how it was worded was so well done, and so not only catches your attention, but is also like calling white people out for the way they're looking at them. And so that's so interesting and so powerful. And then the 2% milk carton faces. Just that wording of a different way to describe what he's already, or what they, I don't know the author or the poet's gender, but what they've already said, because white folk, but now 2% milk carton faces, is just very interesting, the wording and how wording's being placed. And then it's unremarkable here, but we're at least bored together. And I don't know who the we are, because I don't know. I guess when I first read this, I thought family, but it doesn't have to be family. And then news on a monitor, propagandizing in one ear, coming out abandoned in the only other. Other is capital, the O in other is capitalized. And so yes, it could be like the coming out the other ear, abandoned. But it's something about that other that maybe is like how people of color are treated, or black people are treated as other. And so I feel like that's, again, choosing words wisely and very interesting placement. And then this is like a tongue twister, or a I guess kind of onomatopoeia uses of when there's nothing to do, our blacknesses, practices, metamorphoses. That is at the end. Well done. A well done line. Our blacknesses, practices, metamorphoses. So changing. The do-rag is used as a coffee sleeve. The bonnet is used as a lampshade. And that's very interesting. And then I don't know if we'd retire in the pagoda. I hope I'm saying that right, because I don't know if I'm not. You can definitely correct me below. I want to outgrow the flammable baggage that we left in the room of our memory. So did a fight happen? Because later they do mention a fight, but I don't know if this is that there was a big lead up, a big, as they say, flammable baggage of something that just got out of hand and became this big argument. sometimes when you forget what I say, I feel better for it. And so I'm still thinking maybe it's about whoever they are with, and that they're saying I'm okay or I feel better sometimes when you forget what I say. Or are they still talking about white people? And are they still saying how when they have conversation, a white person doesn't always remember what they're saying? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's what's being said, or if, again, it's just about who they were with when they arrived at this La Quinta Inn. There was this big flammable baggage, this big fight, and then it leads to, as if I get to share something with you again. But what was that in an argument about? What was that thing you said in an argument about something I forgot? So maybe it is more personal and about whoever they are with and that fight they had. But we are in the lobby, silent, waiting for the other to disturb our discontent with a pun about crackers. So that last line makes me counter that it was an interaction with a white person, but make me go back to it's about whoever they are with who's also black. And so they are together, they had a fight, but they're trying to maybe check out, or maybe they're just waiting, and because they're in the lobby, but they're silent, they're not communicating with each other. But, and also this could be partners. Now I'm thinking it doesn't have to be like a big group, like I was kind of picturing more than two, but maybe it's just partners. They're the finest black folk in the Southern La Quinta Inn. But white people are looking at them funny, but they're just trying to leave because they had this argument, things got out of hand, but it's time to check out. And they're like, what can we do to settle this mood? We're waiting for the other to disturb our discontent with a pun about crackers. And it's just that pun, that line about a pun. And so it's very interesting. This, and like I said, so that's why I said it again, I'm like, this is a type of poem that can be written. And that's so interesting. I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow. Because it's well done. It touches on things. And it also still takes you back to, oh, but there's some discomfort between their group, I guess you would call it, who they are with, but it's also that discomfort of white people looking at them and how this inn, La Quinta Inn, wasn't remarkable. It was unremarkable. And there's news on the monitor about propaganda. There's, like it says, classic Lucky Charms in styrofoam bowls. Like nothing feels, or maybe it just wasn't what they wanted, but they had to stay here. I don't know. It's very interesting. It's like, it leaves a lot of questions because it's titled Continental Breakfast. And so it leaves a lot of questions, but it also makes you want to reread it. But also I feel like says a lot and holds a lot about observation. Because what I really liked about this poem was the detail and the comments and that metamorphosis line and the wow, they won't stop looking at us funny. There's just so much, I feel like, in this poem that, again, I feel like these poems somehow all tie, mine, David's, and Nicosi's, of standing still and what is impacting you right now. And right now in this poem, it's the discomfort as well as the discomfort feeling because of something that happened, but also the discomfort of seeing what is happening around them at the same time. And I just think it's well done, and it's calling out when white people look at black people funny, and it's calling out arguments, and it's calling out how sometimes wanting to practice metamorphosis, wanting to not leave the situation or alternate the situation, but it's kind of just pull yourself out of it to see it in a different lens. And that different lens still feels maybe sometimes as judgment, or maybe sometimes as powerful. It just depends on how you're taking yourself out and trying to view it. And so it's very interesting. I think this is a well done poem, and so I definitely wanted to share it. Because this poem inspired me to make my own poem that's similar and different at the same time. But that first line, I rewrite it to make it my own, but I basically get my starting point by kind of writing a similar first line, and then the poem takes its own form because it's about an experience I had, and so I'm sharing that, and then making it my own. But I would not have ever made that poem if it wasn't for me discovering Continental Breakfast and reading this poem. And I think I discovered this poem because of Poem a Day. I do get their emails still, not as often, but I do still get their emails. And back when, a few years ago, I was reading my emails more and more Poem a Day and reading the poems, and I believe this was there. If it wasn't there, I'm not necessarily sure how I discovered this poem, but it definitely stood out to me. It made an impact. So yes, let me know how you felt about this poem, if you've heard it before, and what are your takeaways. Thank you so much for listening and for joining me with these poems, this poetry class, as well as National Poetry Month. Let me know if you write your own poem. Let me know if you're just inspired to read a poetry book. And if you would like to, I have a poetry collection out called Stay at Home Cause for Poetry. You can purchase that, or you can keep joining me with my poetry classes and sharing my monthly poems, and you can purchase my poetry calendar at DesiraeStories.com. I also have a novel out, but that does not relate to poetry, but if you want to check that out, you can find that on my website as well. Thank you so much for being here, and don't forget, just write your story, and take care.